Just over. This is why I came to America.
Welcome to another episode of Mattyice, Chief. We are back. Patrick, we could say it last week, but we can say it even more this week. Football is back, baby.
Oh, it's back. We had a tease last weekend. We just had a few games, so it wasn't enough to scratch the itch, but it was just enough to hold us over until this weekend.
Yeah, and this weekend we've got an absolutely full slate of college football. Yeah. So we're going to start there. But this episode is also our big NFL preview for the year. So we're actually going to go through every single team, every single division. I've picked every single game. I believe Patrick has picked every single game. So we will actually have our prediction, similar with college football, to what they end up with or to where these teams end up at the end of the year. I have paused before picking the playoffs, Patrick.
I did too.
We use Playoff Predictor. So depending on time, depending on how long this one goes, depending on whether a certain daughter who made an appearance on the show last week via some vocalizations, shall I say, if everything's going great there, we will go ahead and actually pick through the playoffs and pick a Super Bowl champion based off of where we think our season's going to go. Before we do all that, like I said, we are going to start with college football. So, Patrick, if they haven't joined yet, right, everybody needs to be joining the Pick'em League. We have, again, as Mattyice and Chief. I believe it's Mattyice and Chief 2022, or is it 2022 Mattyice and the Chief?
Should be Mattyice and the Chief 2022.
Correct. It's Mattyice and the Chief 2022.
Which I'm going to do everyone a favor, and I'm going to literally, as I'm saying this, I'm going to repost.
Beautiful.
So once you guys see it, basically, you're going to be listening to this on Thursday. So yesterday, when you saw it, this was mid-record. So I'm posting it now. I'll post it on Facebook. I will post it on Instagram. I will post it on Twitter. It's going to be everywhere. But it's free to join. No passwords, no nothing. One entry. Pick your games based on confidence. We went over how that worked last week. It's kind of, at this point, we're all in our mid-30s, early mid-30s, or older. Or younger. But at this point in life, you should know how the confidence system works, especially since we went over it yesterday. If you still don't know, maybe you should go back to last week's episode and take a listen, and then we explain it.
That is a great idea.
Confidence. Last week, there wasn't even enough games to have counted. It's all starting this week. I think it actually is all
they're all Saturday games.
All Saturday games.
Yeah.
So
they're
games on Thursday, games on Friday. Those don't count. You just watch for your own leisure. Then Saturday, those are all the games that count towards the pick-em.
Yeah, so if you're randomly here, you can see at the bottom of the screen as it scroll. Well, you can't right now. I'm going to make sure it's there. It's there now. If you're randomly watching, you can now see at the bottom where Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all that good stuff. If you're not watching, obviously we'll say it right now. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at MIATC Show. On Facebook, Mattyice and the Chief. YouTube is Mattyice and the Chief. Instagram is MIATC Show, similar to or the same as Twitter. So if you're following us there, you'll get links. That's the easiest way to find it. If you want to go search on ESPN, you're absolutely welcome to do it. That is a little bit tougher maybe to find it. It's easy because it's our name. If you can type in Mattyice and Chief to find us on Facebook, you can type it in there. If you're listening to the podcast version, obviously that's great, grand, wonderful. I just set them all for you anyways. So now you know where to go. Make sure you're following us there. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Then you'll get, if you are listening to the podcast and you want to start watching the video and you don't get to watch it live, and you don't want to watch it on Facebook, you can go over to YouTube. It's usually up the next day. Sometimes it's not. Last week it took a couple days. It gets up there eventually. So that is a place you can watch it. You can watch Patrick make faces as I make picks on things because sometimes I am wrong. As I was horribly wrong last week when I picked Hawaii to beat Vanderbilt, and then they got housed 63-10. So do not worry. This is a show, but with me and Patrick, who both are readily able to admit when we're wrong about things. It's not totally often, but sometimes it is. That was the case that week. So if you listened to the show last week, you did hear us make these picks real quick. We're going to run through them again really, really fast. And Patrick, you've already put them in confidence order, I'm guessing. So I guess you folks are going to get my confidence order because we'll go off of mine, and Patrick, you can follow along easily. So we'll tell you who we picked. So the first game I have the least amount of confidence about, apparently. Number 23, Cincinnati, taking on number 19, Arkansas. Patrick, you speaking of, this is why it's worth watching the show.
Why is that the first one you mentioned?
Because that's my lowest confidence.
Why is that one the least amount of confidence?
We talked about this last week. Preview. I think that Arkansas, while I think I have them going 10-2 in the regular season, I think they will lose one of their non-conference games to either Cincinnati or BYU. Not knowing which one that's going to be, this is fairly low on my confidence level this week, just because we don't know exactly what Cincinnati is going to look like. We assume they're going to still be good. We assume they're still going to be pretty good on defense, very, very good on defense. We assume they're probably going to be fine on offense. They are going to have to bring in a new quarterback. Obviously, Desmond Ritter's now playing for the Falcons. But because I don't know, I have that one lower on my confidence. But I am picking Arkansas to win that game. So go Hogs. Patrick, who you got?
Let me see here. I'm trying to blurb out everything. So my number one, well, I guess least amount of confidence, Houston versus UTSA. I have UTSA.
Well, why don't you we'll go off of my confidence, and you can tell me where you have it in order. It'll be much easier to keep up track.
Yeah, that's
for me. Make sure we don't miss games. So where do you have Cincinnati, Arkansas? Who are you picking?
I have Cincinnati, Arkansas number 4, and I have Arkansas, of course.
Okay, so not too different there. So you're picking Arkansas, I'm picking Arkansas. We both think Arkansas is going to have a very good season. This does not mean that Cincinnati is not going to have a good season. I absolutely think Cincinnati will be fine. I think they'll probably win their conference still, but it might be a little bit of an adjustment. This is a tough matchup for them to start the season. Patrick, my second confidence spot is number 11 Oregon against number 3 Georgia. I'm picking Georgia, though.
Wait, that's your number 2?
It is, and the reason why is because, again, another first – I mean, you got a coach who previously coached at Georgia, so he's not necessarily going to be scared of them. That team's a complete wild card. I feel much more confident about some of these other games. Those first games sometimes are real screwy when there's a team that could potentially be good. Again, I think Oregon is a team similar to Cincinnati, and you'll notice a trend here that I think we have enough question marks about them that it makes it hard to pick. Granted, I think Georgia is one of the 3 best teams in the country. I think they're probably the 3rd best team in the country behind Alabama and Ohio State, obviously, who are both ahead of them in rankings anyways. But I'm not totally sold on – look, Georgia's got to replace a ton of people on defense, right? And sure, they should reload, but that is potentially a problem for them and could get this game off to a shaky start. So I've got Georgia winning, but it's low on my confidence level.
That one's number 9 on my confidence level. And I have Georgia winning.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Spread off the top of the dome, I think, is like 17 or 17 and a half.
Yeah, and
I think Oregon can cover that. I do. I think they can cover that. But in terms of who's winning this game, I'm very confident that Georgia is going to win because I'm pretty sure on top of everything that we know, circling this game. It's being played in Atlanta, which is more than enough for me.
Yeah,
That alone is it. You give me this matchup, I'm like, okay, where is it? Like, oh, it's Chick-fil-A kickoff in Atlanta. I'm like, oh, all right, that's all I need to know. Georgia's got this. But they have it by 17. No, do they have it? Yes. That's why it's so high for me.
that just tells you how confident I am about all of my picks, Patrick.
I mean, that's fair.
All right, speaking of next up, my number 3, Patrick, I have Boise State and Oregon State.
Boise State, Oregon State. That one is number 6 for me. So it's kind of like middle of the pack. I have Oregon State winning that one.
I also have Oregon State winning, but again, I feel like, man,
that one's going to be a close game in Vegas. Think so because I think the line for that one is like 2 or 3.
Yeah, I think again, this is another one of those. If Oregon State turns out to be the team that you and I think they're going to be this season, I think this should be I'm not going to say a cakewalk for them, but they should be able to beat this Boise State team. But again, it's Boise State. They're an awkward team to play anyways. They typically play tough games against bigger schools, so they're not scared of a Pac-12 team for sure. So this one, again, and really we're both going against the national percentage. If you look at what everybody nationally has picked on ESPN, 78% are picking Boise State. I don't know if that makes me and Patrick crazy or if we know something everybody else doesn't know.
I think it's just because, for one, it's Pac-12. Everyone's going to be watching USC, Oregon, UCLA. Nobody is really staying up to watch like Washington State, Oregon State, the Arizona schools. Like, no one's going to stay up for those because those schools aren't getting prime time anyway.
Right.
So you're getting like the degenerates, like people like us who just live and breathe college football no matter who it is. And we know based off of last year, based off of who else coming back, like there's a good Oregon State team. And Boise State, they're not going to be bad, but they may be a little bit overhyped because of it's like battle of the brand names. Boise State is kind of a brand name, usually one of the best in the group of 5. Oregon State usually is one of the worst P5, but the tides are kind of turning a little bit, and no one's paying attention.
Yeah, I think for me that's what makes this a little bit tougher of a thing. Is they're probably more even teams than a lot of people want to give them credit for, and that could turn. So Patrick, my number 4, which was I believe lower for you. I said I was picking Oregon State. I don't know if I said that or not, but I am picking Oregon State. My number 4 confidence is Houston, number 24 against UTSA. I think this one's a very tough.
Mm-hmm.
This again, nationally, everybody is picking Houston. It's 96% in Houston's favor. I, however, am taking the upset here, and I don't think it's necessarily much of an upset because I think they're actually fairly close in terms of teams. But I am taking UTSA, go Roadrunners, to win this game.
Yeah, I have UTSA as well. As I mentioned, this is my number 1 as far as confidence. I think they're extremely close as far as like talent on each of these teams. UTSA was very successful last year. They lost a few of their key pieces, but they hit the transfer portal pretty hard and kind of reloaded in those weaker areas. Houston is number 24 in the nation. They were pretty hot last year. Mainly taking UTSA because it's at home. And I know what they are riding off of. And I think those guys are kind of want to keep that wave going in terms of the success they built off of last year.
Yeah, I think that's a good point and a good way to look at that game. That should be a very, very fun game, mid-afternoon football game. If you don't, we'll talk about what games we really like this week. That is one of them. So keep an eye out for that. Next up, Patrick, my number 5, I've got Rutgers and Boston College. This is one that I actually, again, this is where we start. I really feel confident about a lot of these picks this week. Again, that may be crazy on my part. I think Boston College wins this game. I'd move it up higher, but I feel pretty confident about a lot of these games.
This is my number 10. and I have Boston College winning. I don't think Boston College is necessarily a great team per se. I don't remember how I picked them when we did the ACC preview. I just don't think Rutgers is any good. So, I mean, I honestly, for me, and this is just me being biased, this is an easy, quick 10 points in your confidence group. Like, because that's the whole point of confidence is
Right.
which is like the easy gimme one. You mark that one at 10, no matter what the rest of them are. Like, this one is shadow of a doubt. Boston College wins this. So this should be an easy 10 points for me.
Yeah, it'll be an easy 5 points for me, and hopefully a lot of these other ones will be easy points for me. Speaking of, at number 6, Patrick, I've got Arizona, San Diego State. I'm taking San Diego State.
Where's that one for me? Oh, I have that one at 7, so not far off. I have San Diego State as well. I would argue that this one could even be higher because Arizona's garbage.
Yeah.
They're just bad. There's a reason why 91% of people participating in this have picked San Diego State.
Yeah.
It's because they're atrocious.
Yeah, they're pretty bad. Next up, Patrick, at the 7th spot for me, you obviously have San Diego State, Arizona. I've got number 7, Utah, taking on Florida. I'm obviously picking Utah to win this. Again, nationally, this one's a little bit more – or not again, but nationally, this one's a little bit more split. It's 59% picking Utah. But, man, this is one I don't think will actually be that close. I think Utah's got this thing. It'll be close because Utah plays a tighter kind of football game. They play it a little bit, I don't want to say dirtier, but they play kind of those uglier games that you look at and it doesn't necessarily look super, super impressive, but they really kind of control the game from start to end. And I think they're going to do that against this Florida team that's kind of, like we talked about last week, has a lot of question marks. It has a lot of issues that they've got to figure out. And bad luck for them to have to figure it out against Utah.
What do you think the line is for this game?
I'm terrible.
I know. But I was curious what you think it is.
I'm terrible at lines because I hardly understand them. I've
really had to have done my research because we're obviously leaving for Vegas tomorrow.
Guess what? If you pick a team and it's negative, that means
they're the favorite.
They say what?
Negative means they're the favorite.
Negative means they're favorite. So I'm going to say Utah -6.5.
Utah, and it's fluctuated over the last couple of weeks. I think at one point Florida was favored, and then now Utah's favorite. It's -3. So they're basically having Utah win by a field goal. So based off of that, which I mean, I was picking Utah no matter what. Confidence for me is a 5.
Yeah, that's probably.
Because, I mean, I still think Utah's going to win. I'm more confident in other games, which is kind of the name of the game here. Like,
yeah,
I'm more confident in the rest of the schedule in front of me. So I've got this one at 5. I don't know what we're going to get in Florida, and we're basically getting the exact same team minus like Britton Covey.
Yeah,
Utah.
Yeah,
I mean, that's an important piece, but they've got so much coming back.
Well, and you and I both think Utah's going to the playoffs, so that tells you what we think of this team anyways. Next up, Patrick, at the 8th spot, you're probably thinking, where's this game at so far? I've got number 5 Notre Dame taking on number 2 Ohio State. I think Ohio State is that much better. I think Notre Dame is that much overrated that I have Ohio State winning this game, and I think I'm pretty confident about it. Obviously, I've got them at 8.
I also have them at 8. Ohio State.
Nice.
Notre Dame's trouting out I don't know if he's a freshman, but never started a collegiate game. And then Ohio State has an offensive juggernaut. So, yeah, I've got Notre Dame. I've got Ohio State.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm picking Ohio State. Next up, Patrick, number 9 for me. I've got your boys over in Memphis taking on Mississippi State, and I've got Mississippi State winning it.
That one is a 2 for me.
Interesting.
I have Mississippi State winning, But I know this Mississippi State team, beginning of the year, end of the year, two completely different teams. They improved drastically towards the end of the year. And this is just a byproduct of I am just more confident in almost every other game on this slate. And I just don't know what Memphis is going to be. Like, obviously, they played this game last year. Memphis won, kind of based off of controversy, but Memphis won. Towards the end of the year, they really took a nosedive. And I just don't know what I'm going to get from them this year. So I could be underwhelmed based off of what I see, or I could say, oh, I really misjudged this team. Like, this is red hot, firing all cylinders. They wanted to prove that last year's game wasn't a fluke. They didn't need the refs to win that game. I just don't know what I'm going to see from Memphis. I kind of know what I'm going to see from Mississippi State. Obviously, I have them winning, but I'm not really confident based off of all that.
Well, it's funny you say that because I kind of think of it as Mike Leach teams are kind of a crapshoot just in general. But I think this Memphis team, I think we're seeing Memphis level out a little bit. They were obviously really, really good under Mike Norvell. And I think you're seeing the lack of him being at the head of that, I almost said franchise, but head of that football team. I think we're seeing them kind of level out a little bit and level more to where they probably should be as a program. And granted, look, it's Memphis. There's a lot of good football players around there, but I think this is more where their baseline is. And you're going to see exceptional seasons here and there, but I think this is more. We talk about expectations a lot, with teams and how we think. Like for me, when people say, is Texas back, horns down? They're not the way Texas fans want to think of it. I think Texas is back in terms of where they should be as a program. Historically, they're kind of more of a 6-6, 7-5. They're 8-4 kind of team. Like they're not necessarily every single year in, year out, a national championship team. And that's where obviously Texas fans think they should be. And look, they should be in the sense of they have the best state other than Florida to recruit from. And it should be really, really simple. They should just be able to go, hey, we're Texas, you should come play here. But obviously that's not a thing. I think Memphis is kind of in a similar situation, obviously on a smaller level, being a smaller conference school, being a P5 school. But they should be able to go in there and say, hey, did Ole Miss offer you? Are you going to be a starter at Ole Miss? No, you should come here. Are you going to be a starter at Mississippi State? No, come here. If you aren't a starter on an SEC team, we're the next best option. There's a ton of talent around there. I don't think they're necessarily there that they have that kind of cachet to be able to do that anymore. I think they kind of had it during the Norvell years, and that's, again, tailed off a little bit. Long story short, I got Mississippi State winning this game. My last one, Patrick, so I'm guessing, well, I don't know where this is on yours. My number 10 confidence is number 25 BYU taking on South Florida. I just think BYU, this is more of I don't think South Florida is going to be a good football team than I think BYU is just some great football team. And BYU is used to playing in big games. This isn't a big game necessarily, but I think this is an easily winnable game for BYU. I trust BYU to win a game like this, even though it's on the road. So that's my number 10, taking BYU.
So I actually moved mine around a little bit. Utah and Florida was 5. I have it at 4, and I moved this game up to 5. So I basically just moved this game and then the Utah game. So BYU South Florida is now my number 5. I had BYU winning. Again, I'm very confident in this one. In fact, I may even be tempted to move this one. In fact, yeah. I'm actually going to move this one up a little bit further. I'm going to move this to 6. So now Utah, Florida 4, Boise State, Oregon State 5, and BYU South Florida is at 6. Again, I know BYU is going to win. It's just San Diego State is definitely beating Arizona, no doubt about it. Ohio State's definitely beating Notre Dame and Lions, no doubt about it. The rest of those are just like obvious. And this is where it starts for me. Like 6 is where it starts to get like obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Like Oregon State boys, like the rest of these, I could see being toss-ups, but this one is like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that's the whole point. Again, the whole point of confidence. I don't know what South Florida has. I know Gary Bohannon just transferred there, previously at Baylor. But outside of that, and we really don't even know what he's going to be able to bring to South Florida because we don't even know what South Florida has.
Right.
So it's just going to be – it's almost kind of like we saw Malik Willis at Liberty.
Mm.
Do you know any other player who played for Liberty last year?
No.
Other than Malik Willis? No, you don't. It's probably going to be the same thing. We'll probably see Gary Bohannon have some highlights in South Florida, but we're not going to know anyone else who plays for South Florida.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this team, I'm not trying to compare Malik Willis and Gary Bohannon, but I think Gary Bohannon is going to be able to do some things in South Florida and maybe pull an upset. But at the same time, like game 1 again, a borderline powerhouse in BYU, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. So that is our pick 'em. So again, stop, pause, unless you're live, whatever. Stop right now. Go make your picks. Go join the pick 'em league. You can pick all the same games we do. You can put them in the same confidence order that one of us did, and maybe you win. If you can figure out how to view my wife's picks, that would be the one I would actually go with. She at least beats us every year. I can't remember who wins or who's won the last couple of years. But there will be a prize package available to the winner at the end of this thing. Mm-hmm. We'll have a few more rules as it gets closer to that time that involve what all of our kind of contests do, involve sharing the show, liking, subscribing, reviewing, all that sort of the stuff.
Usually this one we don't have issues with. This one is usually like a friends and family type of one. It's usually the NCAA tournament where I feel like it's definitely not just us. It's every single group.
Yeah,
these issues.
Yeah, that's the one that gets
issues being like these random people will make 100 different brackets, and then they'll find loopholes in the system, and we're at fault because whenever I believe it's me who makes the group, I don't make it to where only one entry is allowed, and I may have set it to where only one entry is allowed, but what happens is if you don't lock it to where, like, once the first tip-off starts, like, whatever bracket's in, that's it, then people throughout the whole tournament will pick and choose which one of their 100 brackets is the best, and they'll swap them out.
Yeah.
So first weekend, they might have a bracket that's just dookie. But then once Final Four gets in, they have like a perfect Final Four all of a sudden. It's like, how did you just shoot up? Well, they just swapped one of their brackets.
Well,
they just put their best one in. So, I mean, college football, it's easy. Like, no one does that. It's obviously the tournament where there's millions, if not billions of dollars in prizes are being thrown around everywhere. Like, that's where you have that issue come up.
Yeah, long story short, that's why you follow us, because we will eventually give rules out to how you can still win without winning the prize package. But if you want to ultimately win the prize package, which usually ends up being sports memorabilia of some kind, usually from Patrick's personal collection of sports memorabilia, and maybe you might get some new stuff depending on if you do everything. We might be willing to go find you something that is based off of your team.
I usually try to.
You choose to follow. But if you're not following us on Facebook, all that stuff. That's usually where we actually give the official rules. We kind of loosely say things here and then say, but you have to go to our social medias to find out the rest of the rules. That's kind of our fine print there. So again, make sure you're following us there. You eventually will see the entire rules. It's not going to be anything crazy like pay us $67 or something. That's not the case. Like, it will be literally sharing stuff, sharing socials, sharing that. So if you're following us, you'll find out. You'll do all that good. So that is the pick'em. Patrick, real quick before we do our NFL preview, a couple games from this weekend that are worth maybe spending some time, because there are a lot of crappy football games. It's been however long since February we've been without real football, so they're all good games. But which ones kind of stand out to you? For me, on Friday, I think the one to watch on Thursday, excuse me. The one to watch on Thursday is West Virginia at Pitt. I think that kind of goes without saying. That's I think really the only matchup between two Power 5 teams. Well, Purdue and Penn State are playing as well. So that's also another. So there's two very good games on Thursday. I'm very interested in the Pitt game to see how Keaton Slovis and crew, how that offense comes out in the first game. And then I'm very interested in Penn State Purdue, because I'm interested to see how good, I picked Purdue to go do pretty good this year. I'm interested to see how that team does.
Yeah, I mean, those are the two games. And you mentioned Slovis with Pitt. I want to see what JT Daniels is able to do with West Virginia.
Yeah, that too.
So, I mean, obviously we have an old rivalry back at it again with West Virginia and Pitt, but we've got two transfer quarterbacks finding another home. Slovis previously at USC, JT Daniels previously at Georgia, previously at USC, battling it out. Pitt is ranked, and probably shouldn't be, both kind of similar teams in a way. We don't really know outside of these two quarterbacks, but either one of them have. So it's going to be interesting to see what these teams, what their identities are. We knew what Pitt was, but we also saw the top award-winning wide receiver transfer out to go to USC. So what do they really have? And then West Virginia, it's just what do they have? So it's going to be really fun to watch those two on tomorrow night, really battle it out. And then you mentioned Pitt and Purdue. Going to see a fun conference matchup with those two teams. I mean, we have Purdue with Aiden McConnell, but I mean, they don't really have the typical star wide receiver. No David Bill, Rondo Moore's not coming through that door. So we don't really know what McConnell has, but we know how good McConnell is.
Yeah.
And then Penn State on the flip side, Clifford's not the greatest quarterback, but he's got weapons.
Yeah.
He's got some wide receivers to throw to. So, and on top of that, Penn State usually has a solid defense.
Well,
so it's going to be interesting to see what these teams are all about. I think it's going to be a battle of the quarterback play. And for some reason, without really knowing what this Purdue team is, I really think Purdue takes this one.
Yeah, I've got Purdue winning that game. Obviously, if you go back and listen to the Big Ten preview, you'll know that I absolutely kind of have to have picked them, because let's see what I had them finishing 11-1 in the regular season. So I'm obviously very high on Purdue. So look, Friday is kind of the weekday, not the weekday.
Like there's conference matchups in here as well, but they're very weak. Like
the one I'm looking forward to, Patrick, I think it might be a little bit of a surprise, is TCU at Colorado. And the reason why is not because I think Colorado is going to be surprisingly good. It's because I'm very curious what Sonny Dykes has got going for him at TCU. I think that, to me, you go back to our Big 12 preview, I think is one of the teams that maybe I have the least good read on for the entire season of all the Power 5 teams. I think a lot of the teams kind of show you what they are, and you can kind of know based off what's on their roster and what they were last year and turnover, yada, yada, all that good stuff. TCU is kind of, in past years, it's been Baylor for me. That's kind of a crapshoot of they could win 2 games or they could win 10 games, and I would be both surprised and not surprised at the same time. So I'm curious to at least keep an eye on that game. That's pretty much the only one.
I'll give you one to keep an eye out on, and it's not a sexy game, obviously, but I'm gonna say keep your eyes out on Virginia and Old Dominion. We talked about Old Dominion being the newcomer in the Sun Belt, and
Yeah,
I believe one of us actually said, this could be a team to watch. But then also, we've got Virginia Tech, I think, is an 8.5 point favorite, which most people are going to think that's too low because they don't know anything about Old Dominion. But, I mean, we have our eyes out on Old Dominion, but then Virginia Tech, they've kind of been on a downward slope lately. Well, they got transfer quarterback Grant Wells out of Marshall, another Sun Belt newcomer. He was really good at Marshall. I mean, granted, it's Marshall. He can't really do a whole lot. But, I mean, remember his first game there at Marshall as a true freshman. And he lit the world up. Like, everyone thought, this is the next best thing. Kind of came back down to earth as the season went on, obviously. But I think Grant Wells is a solid quarterback. I'm going to be interested to see what he can do at a higher level, being Virginia Tech, and what Old Dominion is going to be able to bring to the table this year.
Yeah, I think that's a fun game to keep an eye on. All right, Patrick, on Saturday, obviously we got a full slate, really, really, really fast. A game or two that is not on the pick'em, because obviously we've talked about that a little bit. I would pick a game first if I can find it. Army at Coastal Carolina. I think that's going to be a very fun game to watch. I think that's going to be a very interesting game to watch to see where that Coastal Carolina team is. And Army always puts up a good game against everybody. Obviously, they're a weird offense for a lot of teams to face. So that is one for me. Give me one real quick.
An interesting one that I saw. It's not going to be the closest game in the universe, but I'm going to say NC State at East Carolina. So East Carolina, I think they finished right above 500 last year. NC State is usually, that 9-10 win team. They've got, again, somehow always have all their pieces back. Devin Leary leading this team again at quarterback. But it seems like East Carolina is slowly piecing things together. And with this game at home, I'm interested to see, at least in the first half, how close they can keep it. I think NC State's going to pull it away in the second half. But I do somewhat think that East Carolina's going to be able to keep it close. And it's one of those things where when you have the home and home, the lesser team always starts off, chip on their shoulder, that type of thing. So that's going to be my one to keep an eye out on.
Yeah, another couple that I think are important to maybe keep an eye on, and it's not because one of these teams is good. Louisiana Monroe taking on Texas, I think, is going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on, only because I think it's important for us to see with Texas where they're actually at, how their offense looks, bring in a new quarterback. If they struggle with them, it could be a very, very long season. They should house them. It should be a 60-point game. But if they struggle, you can see maybe it might be a sign of some of the typical, over the last at least decade, Texas worry start creeping in, and the UT fans start getting worried about what their football season is. And so I'm interested to see how Quinn Ewers plays in that game. Another one that I think is going to be worth keeping an eye on, Patrick. And I'm going a little off the reservation with keeping an eye on because everybody's going to watch their own games. But I think one that could be actually two more that could be really sketchy to watch. UTEP at Oklahoma, because UTEP is a good football team. In Oklahoma, obviously coming off of their wild offseason that they've had, I think that could get frisky early. I think OU should pull away, and they should be absolutely a better football team than UTEP, but it could get frisky early. And then another sneaky one, Patrick, 11 a.m., South Dakota State playing Iowa at Iowa. I think South Dakota State's one of those FCS teams that gets squirrely real early in the season and can pull off an upset here and there. And, we talked about Iowa being one of those teams that kind of like, they could be really good. They could be mediocre. And that's shouldn't be a tough test, but could be a tougher than it should be test because South Dakota State can be a tough team, a tough FCS team. Yeah. Any others? Last chance.
Let me scroll through this list. Especially anything that wasn't in the pick'em. Nothing that I can see.
There's nothing.
Nothing else is really catching my eye. Of course, outside of these games, we have some solid matchups. Like Sunday, we'll have Florida State, LSU, and then Monday, Clemson, Georgia Tech. Nothing else is really catching my eye. The only thing, I've been studying spreads for weeks now, so the only thing I can see is, I know this spread for this game is this. I know this is a whatever favorite, but nothing else is really catching my eye. You mentioned that Texas ULM game. Texas is a 37.5 point favorite, and the over-under for total points is 64.5. I'm guessing they're expecting Texas to score most of those.
Yeah, which is why I think keep an eye on it, because if it's not an absolute blowout, I think you could start to see the strings on the yarn unravel a little bit of the Steve Sarkisian era, and I think they get a lot of pressure early.
You brought up the other interesting one, and it's one that I'm gonna counter Vegas on. You mentioned the Oklahoma UTEP. They have Oklahoma favored 30.5. I think UTEP can easily cover that.
Oh yeah, I think so.
I do too. I think they can easily cover it. You mentioned Oklahoma with their whirlwind of an offseason on top of UTEP just being a good football team.
Yeah.
A lot of Oklahoma's roster is gone. They took a lot of that offense, or the pieces that they wanted, they took. So that should tell you something. Yeah, I'm gonna put some shekels on UTEP to cover that.
Yeah, not a bad idea there. All right, Patrick, let's go down to the NFL. We've got 32 teams we got to talk about, so we're going to be very, very quick with a lot of these because, as usual, we spend a lot of time on college football because we love college football. So what we're going to do this, we're going to go each division, and then we both picked every single game. We'll give a record, an overall record, and we can say the division record if you've got it in front of you and you want to say that as well. So we'll go AFC, we'll go East, North, South, West, and then we'll go to the NFC and do the exact same thing. So let's start, and within divisions, we'll go alphabetical. So first off, we're going to start with what I actually think is one of the best teams in the league, maybe the best team in the league. If we were to do a power ranking, it's, you're splitting hairs once you're at the very, very top. There's a top tier for sure, is the Buffalo Bills. Patrick, obviously, Josh Allen has looked great the last couple of years. The accuracy issues that he had are no longer really an issue. The one big question mark for them, I guess, is their offensive line. That's kind of gotten better, I think, if Von Miller is the player that he was for the Rams at the end of the year last year. I think that is a huge pickup for the Bills. It gives them a chance to rush the passer. Obviously, I like the Buffalo Bills. I think they're my favorite to win this division. They're my favorite to win the AFC, I think, as well. I'd we'll see when we get to all our records pulled up. But the very, very good football team should pick up right where they left off last year.
Yeah, I mean, spoiler alert, I guess to say, not only do I have them winning the division, I have them the number 1 seed in the whole AFC. They should be able to run away with this division. I do think Miami is a team to keep an eye on, but in terms of who's going to come out on top on this division, I don't think it's going to be much of an issue. I think we're going to start to see some of these teams slowly creep up, kind of like how New England was in those days. Other teams we thought were slowly creeping up. Buffalo's got the reins on this. I think I like what they've been able to do on offense. They've got a core group. I like the James Cook addition in the draft. I like what they've been able to add on defense. They turned into a team quickly from without a pass rush to several options at pass rush. So they're quickly filling in the holes that they had. The offensive line, I think, is my only question mark. It's not even a big one, but yeah, I've got them running away here.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be. It's almost not even a sexy pick because it's so obvious. Next up, Patrick, the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, they added some big pieces in the offseason. They brought in Tyreek Hill. You got Raheem Mostert coming over from San Francisco. There is a lot of, I think, potential with this team. Again, they've kind of got some issues. Offensive line is such a tough thing to have a good one in the NFL, and they kind of, I guess that would be a little bit of a weakness, especially on the right tackle, which is a bigger issue for them because Tua is left-handed. So that's flip your sides from what you're used to. Usually the left tackle is the most important one. When it's a lefty quarterback, your right tackle is the most important one. So I think that's definitely something to keep an eye on. I think this team could be dangerous, but this is, again, kind of one of those teams that could be a little up, a little down.
Yeah, you mentioned the offensive line. They actually went and added some pieces to the offensive line. They signed Connor Williams from Dallas. They signed Terron Armstead from New Orleans. That was, if it wasn't for Tyreek Hill, that would be their shiny new toy, is protecting Tua. But obviously Tyreek is going to steal all the headlines. Why wouldn't he? So they went and really added almost everything. They got the shiny new play caller in Mike McDaniel. They have Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert. They still have Myles Gaskin. They went and got Tyreek Hill. They went and got Cedric Wilson. They really didn't do much on defense, but I still feel like they've been building through the draft a solid defense. So I think they know what they're doing there. So it's all a matter of what can Tua do. Can Tua stay healthy for 17 games? If Tua is healthy for 17 games, can he perform with the pieces in front of him? And I think with this new offense, with literally all the new pieces that he has, this team has said, all right, we're giving you everything. Now it's on you. We literally did all that we could do. We put all of our chips on the table. We believe in you. Prove that we're not wrong. Yeah. And I think the record this year and the fact that they'll probably make a playoff run, and at least making a playoff appearance, is going to dictate that they're going to be headed in the right direction.
Yeah, I think it'll be close. For me, we'll talk about that here in a bit. Next up, Patrick, we got New England, who I think a lot of maybe surprised people a lot last year with how good they did with Mac Jones. We'll see if there's a little bit of a sophomore slump. They brought in some people this offseason to maybe give him a few more weapons. Jonnu Smith being one of them. They brought him from he was at Tennessee last, right?
Yeah, they brought him from Tennessee last offseason. I think due to injury, he really didn't see the field that much. I think that's why we saw Hunter Henry
Right.
chewed up in targets, especially end zone or red zone targets.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. I mean, I think this is going to be a little bit of there's going to be a little bit of how far can Mac Jones take him. How much has he improved? Does he have a sophomore slump? The defense has some concerns, especially at corner. They've got some issues there. But man, again, I'll say what I say every year with them. Bill Belichick's the coach, so it's hard for me to bet against him too much.
It is, but I'm kind of on the train of not to say sophomore slump from Mac Jones per se. I don't think we're going to see much improvement. I don't think we're going to see much regression. I think what we saw last year is pretty much what we're going to see from Mac Jones. I just don't think they've really done much to give him the weapons he needs. I mean, I like Jonnu Smith. I like Hunter Henry. That's maybe biased. That guy had 9 touchdowns last year, so obviously Mac Jones does as well. Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, I like that duo. But when it comes to the wide receiver position, there's not much there. Like Jacoby Myers isn't doing it for me. Kendrick Bourne isn't doing it for me. Devontae Parker, when healthy, I think is a serviceable wide receiver. The question is he going to be healthy?
Yeah,
I don't know what type of Nelson Aguilar we're going to get. So combine that with all the holes, especially in the back half of that defense, I just don't know how much Mac Jones is set up for success.
Can I ask you this though, Patrick?
Yeah.
Who is their head coach?
The head coach isn't the one throwing and catching the ball.
But who is their head coach?
Yeah, I know who the head coach is, but at some point, just head coach isn't going to win you games.
It's worked so far for them. So I'm not going to necessarily bet against them a ton.
Have you picked the whole season?
Yeah, I have.
What's your final record for them?
Well, I'll tell you here.
I mean, it sounds like we have them in the same rankings, I assume.
Well,
New England being ranked third.
We'll see. Let's talk about the Jets, and then we'll talk about the whole. We'll give all of our records for the East Division and go that way. All right, New York Jets. This is how good does Zach Wilson look? Did not look comfortable last year. Really, if you look at it, outside of right guard, their offensive line should be pretty okay. It's not great, but should be okay. You added Mekhi Becton, who
out for the year now.
If you do what?
I said, who's out for the year now?
Oh, is he?
Yeah, that's why they signed Dwayne Browns, because Becton injured his knee and he's out for the year.
Oh, that's right. I missed that. Silly me. Does Garrett Wilson bring enough weapon to that offense to make it ridiculously good all of a sudden? I like what they did in the draft on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, that's what Robert Saleh is very, very good at, but they're not there yet. Simply put, this team.
They're not there yet. No. I like that they're trying to build up this defense. I like that they are giving him more weapons. I mean, what did they do? They drafted Garrett Wilson. They drafted Breece Hall. They went and signed C.J. Uzomah. I mean, ideally, they would have had a solid offensive line in place with Becton there, Elijah Vera-Tucker, hopefully having a better year next year, which now Dwayne Brown's there at left tackle. You could argue that might even be an improvement because that's a veteran guy there. I don't know. But I think you're getting a solid piece there at left tackle. George Fant at the right tackle position. I think they've got all the weapons in place. It's just how much of an improvement is Zach Wilson going to have? I think it hurts him a little bit with his knee injury that he had a few weeks ago, which is, keeping him out the back half of camp. So we're probably going to see Joe Flacco at least week 1, maybe even week 2, before we get Zach Wilson. But I'm a firm believer that this team is going to be much improved than what we saw last year. it's just going to be one of those funky years where like the record won't reflect it.
Yeah. So let's do records real quick. Patrick, give me your overall and then your division. I've got the Buffalo Bills going 14-3, which puts it and then 5-1 in the division.
Man, I need to know what games you have them losing to, because mine's the exact same.
I
have them losing week 6 in Kansas City. I have them losing week 15 at home against the Dolphins. And then I have them losing week 17 on the road in Cincinnati. Those are my 3 losses.
Our only difference then, I have Chiefs, Patriots at home because it's on a Thursday night for the Patriots, and then the Bengals, which is a Monday night game. So fairly similar there too.
But yeah. Number 2 for me is Miami, 11-6 overall, 4-2 in the division.
Okay, so I'll just not in order necessarily, but for me, Miami, I have them going 9-8, 3-3 in the division. I think to me they just scream average. We're not very far off there. Obviously, 1 or 2 games here and there different. I think again it'll depend largely on how quick Tyreek Hill and that crew gel together as an offense and what Tua does. What are the Patriots doing for you?
Patriots for me 7-10, 2-4 in the division.
Okay, so this is where we're quite a bit different. I actually think I've got them going 11-6 and 4-2 in the division. So kind of swapping spots with Dolphins for me. There were games that I thought, this is a toss up. Bill Belichick's the coach. Like their game against Buffalo, you get situations where it's like, it's a good team, but they're playing them on a Thursday night, and that sort of thing. I'd give the
you mentioned that. I'm pretty sure it was last season where, and I forget, pretty sure New England might have won that game, and Mac Jones, because it was that extreme windy game, the elements really dictated.
And he threw 2 balls.
He threw 2 passes, and they won strictly based off the run game. So I mean, that New England weather, whether it was in New England or in Buffalo, like the Northeast weather can get you. So you having them win against them it clearly can happen.
Yeah, New York Jets. What you got?
I have 5-12, 1-5 in the division.
Okay, I also have them 5-12, but 0-6 in the division. So I've got them losing 1 more game in division. So again, I like you. I think they'll be better. They'll be better on the field than they are on paper. They'll look like a better team. They'll play closer games. They'll play games that they'll ultimately end up losing that you think they probably should have won that one.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where I go on that.
Probably a lot of 1-score losses.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, let's move over now to the North, and we'll kind of crank through this one a little bit. First up, Patrick, we've obviously got the Baltimore Ravens. Man, look, I'm not as high on the Ravens as a lot of people were. I wasn't high on them last year because, again, all this for me boils down to how good is Lamar Jackson. And,
this is going to be this is the year where you find out, because they have one receiver and arguably one of the best tight ends in football. That's it. And you're really banking on that one receiver who played half a year last year.
Yeah, and you look at how injury prone their defense was last year. And look, their defense the last couple of years has not been as good as a lot of people want. Everyone wants to think they're the Ray Lewis era Baltimore Ravens defense. They've not been that. They've been okay, but and they're a little bit deeper after the draft this year, drafting guys like Kyle Hamilton. But I'm not sold on them being some great football team. So for me, I think this team is.
They're taking a step back.
Absolutely, I think they've taken a step back.
I think the offense is going to struggle because what do you have? You have essentially still a rookie as your wide receiver 1. Your offensive line is still shaky. You have Mark Andrews. And then your running back room is led by J.K. Dobbins, who we really still don't know how healthy he is. So, I mean, you just had to sign Kenyon Drake today, who's pretty much done.
Yeah.
Which their running back room the last few years has just always been filled with just the most random names. And you look what they had to do last year. They signed the most random veterans. Which, I mean, I've always been kind of a believer, but with the lack of anything that they added to the offense, I think they're going to struggle.
Yeah. All right, next up, Patrick, the Cincinnati Bengals, who obviously went to the Super Bowl last year. I think this team is going to pick up essentially right at where they left off. Offensive line, they still got a spot or two. Left guard, especially, that could be a potential concern. But outside of that, I think you're going to see Jamar Chase probably get better. I just like what this team is. It was a good team last year. I think it surprised a lot of people how good they were last year. But I don't think it's going to surprise people, and they're going to be good this year. Plus, this division as a whole got weaker. Outside of this division got weaker, so I think they're my favorite to win this division. We'll talk about record in a minute, but yeah.
I mean, there's really not much that we need to say because we already know what we're getting. I mean, the whole as a group was the offensive line, and all they did from the start of the offseason was add to the offensive line because they knew that was their missing piece. And then throughout most of the draft, they added defense. So they know exactly what they're doing. They address their weaknesses. Tight end is iffy. They have Hayden Hurst. They just signed O.J. Howard today. But, yeah, I mean, they have nothing to worry about in this division.
Yeah, in this division especially. Let's move on to a team that just claimed – this is the situation that they're in. The Cleveland Browns just claimed Kellen Mond off of waivers to be their third quarterback. Obviously, a lot of things have happened this offseason. This team really just at the quarterback position looks a lot different. But I think that is going to be a significant enough issue and distraction that makes this team worse than they were last year. Do they still have some of the guys, that were great players for them last year? Absolutely. And I think they'll be fine on defense because you've got Myles Garrett, you've got Jadeveon Clowney's coming back. Denzel Ward's pretty darn good at corner. I think overall this defense is fine. It's not great. It's fine.
It's fine. You really described it well when you say it's fine.
Yeah. And I love this offensive line, obviously, with Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller and Jack Conklin. Like, this is a great offensive line. Problem's going to be they're not getting their starting quarterback, really, until, week 13 when they play –
When they play Houston.
So, you're talking about a team that they're trotting out Jacoby Brisket, right?
I mean,
who's fine. Don't get me wrong. He's fine, but it's
I got to see him firsthand. Like, he's not going to win you games, but he's also not going to be the one who loses you games, really.
Yeah.
He's however good your team is without him, like, that's as good as you're going to be with him. Like, you're going to coast. If you're a 4-win team, you're going to be a 4-win team with him behind the reins. If you're a 10-win team, well, you're still going to be a 10-win team. Like, he's not the difference maker either way.
Right. I'd rather have him than who maybe my team has at quarterback. But
I mean, there's a reason why he keeps getting backup jobs. It's because he is one of the best backup quarterbacks. Yeah. He's not one of the best starting quarterbacks.
Speaking of a roster, Patrick, that has nothing but backup quarterbacks, let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers real quick. I guess we're going to roll out Mitch Trubisky. We're going to do that, Mr. Biscuit.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes for you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this defense is is still pretty darn good. As long as you got TJ Watt, you're fine. As long as you got Cam Hayward, you're fine.
As long as you got Minka, you're fine.
Yeah, you're good on defense. The problem is you go over to the other side of the football and look, I like Deontay Johnson. I think Chase Claypool is a good receiver. I think George Pickens is going to be a really good wide receiver. I liked Pat Freiermuth. I think this is a team that has some weapons. Najee Harris was pretty decent last year. But, man, you're rolling out Mitch Trubisky. You're rolling out maybe Mason Rudolph if you have to. You're maybe rolling out Kenny Pickett at some point in time during the year. And I think we'll see Kenny Pickett because I don't think they'll be that good of a football team. But, man, this is a team that is kind of wasting a defense.
Yeah, they really are. Like, you've got some prime pieces on the defense, and you have done nothing really to make sure that you're not. What was and I still battle with who said it to who. Everybody says that it was Watson who said it to JJ, or JJ Watt who said it to Watson. I think it was Watson who said it to JJ Watt. But after that playoff game, they're talking to each other, and whoever said it to the other said, we wasted one of your years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all Pittsburgh is doing is wasting years with all of these studs they have on defense because they can't land a quarterback. They held on to Ben Roethlisberger for probably at least 2 years too long.
Yeah.
And then by the time they finally had the presence of mind to let him go, whether it was one's decision or the other, well, now you have two quarterbacks, even potentially three quarterbacks in line to start, which means you absolutely don't have one. And one in the preseason has definitely shown that he should win this job. And, oh, by the way, you invested a first-round pick in him, and you're paying him more than you're paying Mitch Trubisky, who you signed immediately in the offseason. I mean, he may have been one of the first free agents to sign a deal. So that tells me that, for one, you didn't have confidence in Mitch Trubisky from the beginning. Two, the fact that you still have that named a starter shows you don't really have confidence in any of them. Or you're just capable of making the right decision. With the longer they struggle, whether it's they pick the right quarterback or not, the longer they have this quarterback struggle, the longer this team is going to struggle.
Yeah, so let's talk records, Patrick. Baltimore Ravens, for me, I've got going 7-10 overall, finishing 1-5 in the division. Actually, the way that you've got, this is not a very good football team. I don't think. I think they look better than they are.
Baltimore Ravens, I have them finishing 9-8, 1-5 in the division.
Interesting. Interesting. All right, Cincinnati, I've got finishing 13-4, 5-1.
Cincinnati, I have them finishing 13-4, 5-1 in the division.
Nice. All right, Cleveland Browns, for me, I have finishing 6-11, 3-3 in the division.
I have them finishing 7-10, 4-2 in the division.
So we're pretty close on all.
Pretty spot on.
All right.
This one. I think we have similar takes here. The only thing I'd be interested to see is what you have Cleveland looking like weeks 1 through 12, and then you have them kind of surging once week 13 gets here.
Absolutely, I do. I think I had them going 0-9, I think, to start the season. Or 0-8, I think, to start the season, and then winning a game or two. Because if I remember right, the schedule kind of works out. I can look real fast. What do you have?
I had them winning basically from week 13 on. I had them winning 4 out of 6 games.
Oh, I actually had them going 6-6 or 6-0 to finish the season. So that's how I had them starting off at 0-11. So that'll be wrong, but. Likely. What do you have Pittsburgh doing?
Pittsburgh, I have it going 6-11, 2-4 in the division.
So we're pretty similar there too. I think I don't remember exactly how it worked out, but obviously, I think at some point in time in the season we'll see Kenny Pickett. I don't know how early it'll be. I'm thinking, well, their bye week is week 9, and they get the Saints, Bengals, Colts, Falcons. So maybe you get them to the bye week and start them, or maybe you wait until after week 6. And if you're, as I would have them after week 6 when they play Tampa 1-5, maybe you bring him in against a team like Miami and then the Eagles. You got a little bit of an easier and then a bye week before you get the Saints to kind of bring him in a little bit slower.
Yeah, I mean, I have a bad feeling they're going to start Trubisky, which I don't think is going to end well for them. And so it's just a matter of, do they give him the reins once the bye week gets here? Because once the bye week gets here, they play Saints at home, they play the Bengals, they play the Colts. I mean, it's not – the schedule doesn't get much easier whether you split it up before or after the bye. So I think you either start them now or you might as well give them the whole year, because waiting till this point isn't going to help.
Yeah, well, I think maybe give it some time, because you don't want to get him beat up too early, and the schedule starts pretty rough to start with. All right, let's move over to the South, Patrick. Your division. We got the Houston Texans. This is not a good football team. I'll leave it at that. We don't have to spend a lot of time on it.
No, they don't know how to construct a roster.
Yeah, this is just bad. Your defensive line isn't good. Your offensive line isn't good. You didn't get better.
That is good.
I think about the only thing you got going for them is Derek Stingley Jr. That's about the best thing they got going for them. This is just a bad football team.
Yes,
leave it at that. Next up, Patrick. Let's just skip them in general, pretty much, because that's what their roster construction decided to do in the offseason. They just skipped making a roster. Patrick, your Indianapolis Colts are next. Why don't you start us off? Tell us what to expect from them.
So, I mean, you're going to see more accuracy in the passing game, because obviously Matt Ryan is a more accurate quarterback. And not only that, he is a more confident quarterback. He's a more cool, collected quarterback than what we've seen, like with Carson Wentz. I like the additions that they've made on the defensive side. Obviously, getting Yannick Ngakoue is going to add a lot to the pass rush. Something that we've kind of struggled with lately. I think Shaquille Leonard is getting healthy. I think he was back in practice today. They added Nick Cross in the draft, which he's made a fast, immediate impact at strong safety. I really hope that Matt Pryor has a better offensive year playing at left tackle. Wide receiver group is still questionable, but hopefully Alec Pierce, they say he's making an impact in the red zone. I hope that's still the case. And then Jonathan Taylor should be Jonathan Taylor. This division is just really weak. So there shouldn't really be any excuses for Indianapolis not to come out of this division on top.
Yeah, I think the big question for me for your Colts here is going to be health, because I think while top to bottom they're a pretty good football team, I think especially at positions like wide receiver, I think they lack a little bit of depth.
Yeah.
And if they run into some injury problems, it could be very hard on the team. Again, I think this is a very weak division overall. There's 2 good teams. There's 2 awful teams. And so I think the Colts are poised to at least challenge, if not win the division. And it might not be much of a test it won't be a test to finish second in the division at worst. Let's move on, Patrick, to Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville Jaguars, obviously new coach for the season. Man, I want to think this team is eventually going to get better. I still think they screwed up leaving the Blake Bortles era. They had a good thing going there, and they kind of screwed it all up. And obviously, they're still trying to figure that out. I think Trevor Lawrence, we're going to see some improvement from him, not being under dumb Urban Meyer. So I think that's going to help, but I don't necessarily think this is a team that is much better. Obviously, they got Brandon Scherf to come in, which is maybe a decent spot, a decent pickup on the offensive line, but it depends partially on health again for them. Is Travis Etienne going to be healthy and play, and is he actually going to be good? I'm hoping so. And I know Trevor Lawrence is obviously hoping so, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they have an actual coaching staff there is going to help quite a bit. It's going to help Trevor Lawrence quite a bit. Obviously, I don't think their defense is much of the issue. The fact that Lawrence is going to have a second coordinator and second coaching staff in as many years as he's been in the league isn't really going to help him. But I like that they're trying to add pieces around him. I like that they're trying to help protect him. And on top of what they've been able to do on defense, I think similar to the Jets, this is going to be a team that looks a lot better than their record is, and it's just going to show that they're going in the right direction. Yeah,
records notwithstanding, I think. I agree with you. Next up, Patrick, Tennessee Titans, last one in the division. I would say had an interesting offseason, had an interesting draft. So for me, the big question for me is going to be how 1-for-1 is the trade-off between A.J. Brown and Treylon Burks? How 1-to-1 is the trade-off between Julio Jones and Robert Woods? We know what this team can do running the football. We know that defensively they're going to be sound, especially in their secondary with Kevin Byard and Amani Hooker back there. Like, this is a solid team across the board, but I think they're a solid team. They don't necessarily impress me a ton. They're going to win the games they should win. They're not necessarily going to win games that they shouldn't win. I think we'll see them surge again at the end of the year like they've kind of been doing the last couple of years as Derrick Henry kind of just starts wearing down on people, and people who are tired have to tackle Derrick Henry. But eventually I think Derrick Henry is going to hit a point where he's not as big of a weapon as he is. Mm-hmm. Is that this year? I don't know. He's got a lot of miles on his legs, and that's always a big question with running backs, especially a team that is so heavily reliant on one running back. So for me, their ability to replace what they lost in the passing game is going to answer a lot of questions for me.
Yeah. Because while you don't know if Derrick Henry's hit his plateau, I will go on record and say that he had hit his plateau. I mean, they have run him into the ground, and, he deserves to be paid the contract that he's being paid. He deserves to be one of the top running backs in this league because he is, but you can't keep running a running back into the ground and then expect him to keep coming back up injury-free, pop back up, and then keep doing that year in and year out. Last year, he was out a significant part of the season because of the wear and tear. Yeah. He came back last year, but I'm still worried that, how much mileage does he have left on him, considering they're going to keep driving him for as long as possible. I mean, they have Robert Woods, who's coming off a significant injury, Treylon Burks, who's had an up and down preseason. What else do they have? Racing McMath? I don't think so. I mean, their offensive line is shaky. Dylan Radins has been awful for them. I mean, they've got Austin Hooper, who, for whatever reason, didn't plan out in Cleveland. And then their defense is, I think, slowly getting better. They keep adding some solid pieces, but I don't think this is a defense that's going to keep them in games, kind of like a Pittsburgh can.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm really down on Tennessee.
Yeah.
Call it bias. I don't think they're going to be that great.
Well, I think their saving grace for them is going to be that they play two awful football teams twice a year.
Yeah.
And that helps out a ton. So let's go to records real fast. Houston Texans for me, Patrick. I've got them going 3-14 and finishing 1-5 in the division.
You're Pretty generous. I've got them going 1-16 and 0-6 in the division.
Well, here's the thing: they've got to play Jacksonville twice, so
Yeah, I think Jacksonville beats them twice.
I have them splitting. I think. All right, your Colts, Patrick. What you got?
I have them going 11-6, 5-1 in the division.
Okay, I have them going 13-4 and 5-1 in the division. So I actually think they might be a little bit better. Jacksonville Jaguars. What you got?
Jacksonville, I have going 6-11, 3-3 in the division.
Okay, you are definitely more generous with the Jacksonville Jaguars than I was. I have them going 2-15 and finishing 1-5. But similar to the New York Jets, I think they're a team that looks a lot better on the field than they do on the final record. I just think they're missing that thing that helps you win close games. So I think they lose a lot more close games this year.
Yeah.
Last up, Patrick, Tennessee Titans for me. I've got them going 11-6 in overall, 5-1 in the division.
I have them going 6-11.
Ooh.
4-2 in the division.
Interesting. Okay. Listen, that's your division. You're probably a little bit better, more knowledgeable about it. You've probably paid attention to it a little bit more, so I don't dislike that. Let's move over to the West, Patrick. We'll finish up the AFC as quickly as we can. Obviously, we start with Denver. The big news there, Teddy Two Gloves is no longer the starting quarterback. Neither is Drew Lock. The big news, obviously, Russell Wilson's the quarterback there. I think for me, this team – you look at their defense, it's not crazy good like it used to be, but it's still a very solid defense. You look at their offense, I think the pieces that were put around Teddy Two Gloves and whatnot are fine. I think they're not necessarily knock your socks off great, but they're pretty good offense. And when you throw in an elite quarterback, and look, I know people as Seahawks fans, as a Seahawks fan especially, I've heard a bunch of, Russ has lost it. Russ is not as good. Look, Russ is still an elite quarterback. I think you put him on a team that's going to prioritize what he's good at, and I think Denver's going to do that. I think he's still going to prove that he is an elite quarterback. He might be a little bit less of an elite quarterback, like 6'5", 6'7", somewhere in that range in terms of leagues. We've got a lot of good young quarterbacks. I think this is going to be a pretty darn good football team. It's a tough division, but I think they're going to be a good football team.
I do too. They've got Cortland Sutton. They've got KJ Hamler. They got Jerry Jeudy. They've got Albert O. And on top of that, you mentioned their defense. I actually low-key like their defense.
Oh, Patrick Surtain had a great year last year as a rookie too.
Yeah, I mean, Surtain was great. They've got him along with Kareem Jackson, along with Justin Simmons. They've still got Bradley Chubb there. They added Randy Gregory, which is a low-key signing for the pass rush. I think this is going to be a pretty solid team. With Russell here, I mean, every single team in this division has tons of storylines. This is going to be the most electric division in football this year because of just the quarterback play alone.
Yeah.
So,
well, let's talk about another good quarterback, and that is obviously Kansas City. We've got Patrick Holmes, who, if you really kind of go off of his numbers, for him, it wasn't his best year, and they were still a pretty darn good football team last year. The other big side, the big thing for them, they obviously lost Tyreek Hill, but I think I really like what they did to replace him. I mean, you bring in Marquez Valdez-Scantling, you bring in Juju Smith-Schuster, and then I think getting Shaq Moore. I knew I was going to do that. Bringing in Sky Moore, I think is a very interesting guy. Look, Tyreek Hill, we talked about it when that trade happened. I think that is not a guy that you're going to be able to replace one-to-one. He's one of the best receivers in the league. Like that is what it is. But the way you can replace a guy is to have 2 or 3 guys who can do what the one guy did. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It can take some pressure off of one guy in general. Patrick Mahomes, I think, is good enough to get the ball to those guys. Defense played a little bit. They were a little shaky again last year, but this is still a very good football team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the defense has changed much outside of the loss of Tyrann Mathieu, and that's going to hurt them. They also don't have Daniel Sorensen, so that helps them. So it's kind of like give and take. Which offensive line is still the same. I think it's really going to help mesh in game as far as these new receivers in Mahomes. Travis Kelce obviously is still there. They still got to find some run game. Edwards-Helaire, I think he was starting to prove why he was the first running back taken in that draft in 2020. But here lately, whether it's injuries or just performance-wise, he's just not getting it done. And there's just a lot of buzz around Isaiah Pacheco, their 7th-round draft pick.
Yeah.
So that should tell you something. Whether it's just Clyde not getting it done, or maybe he's just severely outperforming everyone else. I still obviously like what they've got on defense. I like that they added Trent McDuffie with their first-round pick last year. They added Justin Reed. They've still got guys like Jerry Sneed back there. Their linebackers are great. So, this could be a team that keeps Mahomes in games, and Mahomes is, of course, going to keep them in games. It's just how quickly can the new receiver core get aligned with Mahomes, because it's literally outside of Nico Harman, brand new.
Yeah, I'm not as worried about it just because I'm not that worried about it because it's of who the quarterback is and who the coach is and whatnot. And a lot of those guys are proven somewhat, at least, but we'll see. Let's go to Los Angeles Chargers, who also have a great young quarterback with Justin Herbert, who you and I both like. They've done a lot to try and rebuild their offensive line. Right tackle could still be an issue for them where they weren't good last year. I think, man, this is a team that I think we were really high on last year, and then they kind of underperformed a little bit. And you're hoping that doesn't happen again this year. They obviously got Khalil Mack, but if he's healthy, he hasn't been the last couple of years. He's kind of been a little bit beat up. If he's healthy, that's a great 1-2 punch with him and Joey Bosa on the other side. I think this is I'm going to say
one of the nastier defenses in the league.
Well, but until they prove me wrong, I'm going to say this is a slightly above average team.
Completely fair. I completely understand that. You mentioned that 1-2 punch on defense. What about the 1-2 punch? Well, 1-2, maybe 1-2-3-4 punch on the D-back side.
Yeah.
Derwin James, J.C. Jackson, Asante Samuel Jr. That's good.
It's not bad.
I just really want to see a big jump in Kenneth Murray. He's kind of one of those rangy hybrid linebackers that we've seen lately. And that type of linebacker so far really just hasn't transferred from college to pro. So now I was big on Kenneth Murray. Really would like to see that jump from year 2 to year 3. But I really do like this team a lot. I've seen reports that Josh Palmer's making huge strides, which another weapon surely is only going to help Justin Herbert. You mentioned the right tackle. It's gonna suck. I don't know why they trotted out Storm Norman for as long as they did.
Yeah.
Everybody makes bad decisions, and that's a bad decision there. But every team in this division is going to look good.
Well, maybe. Let's talk about that because last up, we obviously have the Las Vegas Raiders. And I think when you look around, Devontae Adams should help them. And I think Derek Carr is an underrated quarterback. And we've talked about him a lot over the years. You obviously have Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller. Man, I just think that this offensive line was kind of not great last year. And
Offensive line sucks.
They didn't do anything to make them any better. And so you look at that, plus you look on the back end of the defense, they're relying on a lot of young guys who are unproven. And you look at the strength of this division, I think this is going to be a team that I want to be better than they are. But when I did the schedule, man, they ended up not being very good.
Just call it what it is. There's a reason why Alex Leatherwood lasted 1 year.
Yeah.
Because they just straight up suck. They added the best friend in Devontae Adams. They still got pieces on offense. They added Chandler Jones, but what do they do to the linebacker room? because they've continued to struggle at linebacker. What do they do defensive backfield? Because they don't really have one. Like, all you just did was get a new wide receiver. Okay, that's great, but what have you done with the glaring holes that you have? All you do is make them worse. So, I mean, yeah, everybody's raving about the wide receiver, but what else do you have? Nothing.
Yeah.
And you've done nothing to make, really nothing to make the biggest holes on your team any better.
Yeah, I think that's the big question for me. So, Patrick, let's get records for everybody here. Denver, for me, I've got 12-5 and 4-2.
Denver, I've got 10-7, 3-3.
Okay. All right, Kansas City for me is 13-3 and 5-1.
13-3. That should mean that you're missing a game.
I'm missing a game somewhere. Oh, 14.
I've got
14.
Okay, I've got them 13-4, 4-2.
Okay, say that again.
13-4, 4-2.
Okay. Chargers for me, I've got them at 11-6 and 3-3.
I've got the Chargers 13-4, 3-3.
Yeah, very tough division striking here. Las Vegas for me is 5-12 and 0-6.
Las Vegas have it going 11-6 with conference record or division record 2-4.
Yeah, so man, I'm just not sold on them at all. There's so many question marks for me on that team. So that'll be interesting to see. We're very different on that. So that's always fun when we're wildly different. You seem to think of the Raiders like I think of the Titans, and I think of the Raiders like you think of the Titans. So we'll see. All right, let's go over to the NFC. We're going to move through these fairly quickly. Luckily, there's a lot of bad teams in the East, so that helps. Maybe. But we're going to try and move through the NFC a little bit quicker. So let's start with the Cowboys, Patrick. For me, it's just a lot of the same song and dance. Like
for me, the whole division is the same song and dance.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys do nothing for me except for the fact that they're somehow still the best team in this division year in, year out because the rest of the teams suck at constructing a roster. They've got to – obviously, I think they struck a very rich vein in hitting on Micah Parsons last year. Defensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. So I think he's really good. And I think we'll see how Trayvon Diggs works on the back end. But, man, I think they really just kind of screwed themselves over in terms of – you think of getting rid of Amari Cooper. You think of the fact that they're paying Zeke as much as they are when Tony Pollard is the better running back. They're going to be fine. They're going to win the division, but that's all they do for me.
I mean, yeah. You kind of nail like this division year in and year out is the most either like the most atrocious or the most just mediocre. And one team has to win. And to me, it's not like this Dallas team is bad, but they're not great either.
Yeah.
But I mean, when it's all said and done, they're always clearly the better team in the division, but it's just the rest of this division sucks.
Yeah. Speaking of, Patrick, New York Giants, New York football Giants, we're still going to run Daniel Jones out, huh?
At least for this year.
Yeah.
They have an option, so.
I like what they did on defense in the draft. I actually think they had a very good draft, but this team's got a long way to go. I don't think they're there yet. So we'll see. Kayvon Thibodeau in the first round is a good place to start to build that defensive line. But while there's a lot of mediocre and bad in this division, this is maybe still the worst team in the division.
Yeah. I think they're definitely going to improve just because, like you said, the pieces they added in this draft along with the coaching staff they brought in, I think the change that they're making is only going to help them. But how much is that actually going to help? Because there's just a lot that needed to be done here. So it's going to take a bit, but they're on the right track.
Yeah, you hope so, and we'll see. Obviously, if Daniel Jones is the quarterback next year or not, or if they try and, this might be a little bit of a towards the end of the year, a bit of a tank job to maybe get Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud and maybe take that team up to the next level pretty quick. Next up, we got the Philadelphia Eagles. Made the playoffs last year. For some reason, I'm just not sold on them, even though they got A.J. Brown this offseason. Add him next to Devontae Smith. They should be a lot better. Dallas Goedert is actually a really, really good tight end. This team is going to go as far as their defense, and which should be getting better with Nakobe Dean, Jordan Davis, and Jalen Hurts can take them. For some reason, I just looking at the schedule, I don't think they're actually going to be. I think we see a little bit of a fall off of last year, even though they should, in theory, be better.
I think it's going to actually be an improved team. This is going to be a team that goes as far as your offensive line will let them go, and I say that because this is usually an injury-plagued offensive line.
Yeah,
Lane Johnson is not usually on the field for a whole year. Jason Kelsey is obviously getting older, and he's having his injury concerns. And those two lead this offensive line. I think we're finally going to see Landon Dickerson, which is going to help them a ton because we know how great he is. Obviously, A.J. Brown, that addition is great. But I think they've been low-key adding some good pieces to the defense. I mean, Jordan Davis, I think, is a stud. We all know. So is Nakobe Dean. He's had a great preseason. But they actually just traded for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, which I don't know why, regardless of contract, why did they let him go for less than peanuts? So now they've got Darius Slay, they've got James Bradbury they added, they've got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, they've got Hassan Reddick, they've still got Fletcher Cox. Like, they're turning this back to a really good defense. And I think, with the additional offense they have, like with A.J. Brown, with the offensive line hopefully being better, which is going to open up the run game, which in turn is going to open up the pass game, I think this is going to be an improved team. And we might actually see them make a playoff push.
Yeah, we'll see. Next up, Patrick, we got the Washington Commanders, the newly named Washington Commanders. I still would rather prefer to them as the Washington football team, so we will probably do that all year.
I'm not going to prefer the Commanders. To me, it's more offensive than the R word.
Yeah. And you can say that because you're Native American.
Exactly.
Boy, this team's not good. I don't think.
No, it's not.
And Chase Young just got put on the.
He tore his ACL really late last year, so it's not a surprise that he's there. But this is an underwhelming defense with as many good names on paper. Very underwhelming defense last year. I don't see them turning the corner all of a sudden because they didn't really do much to it. Carson Wentz is not winning you a division. I don't know. Thanks for taking him, but I don't know why you made the trade. Antonio Gibson is quickly falling downhill. This team sucks.
Yeah, not our favorite. So real quick, Patrick, let's go through your standings here. For me, I've got the Cowboys 12-5, 6-0 in division.
I had a 10-7, 5-1 in the division.
Okay. New York Giants, for me, Patrick, I've got it 3-14 and 2-4 in the division.
I'm at 6-11, 1-5 in the division.
Okay. Philadelphia Eagles, for me, Patrick, I have it 7-10, 2-4.
9-8, 3-3 in the division.
Okay. And for me, the Washington football team, I have it 4-13 and 2-4.
I have them 8-9, 3-3 in the division.
Okay. I see it maybe a little bit more of a fall off. Always interesting when we're that different with some stuff. You've got a few more teams beating the Cowboys than I do. Or one more, I guess, but in division. But that's that. So let's move over now, Patrick, to the NFC North. We'll start with the Chicago Bears. Obviously, we got second year Justin Fields. What do you think happens with this team?
Not much different. You can argue that they're just worse.
I may save us a little bit of time on all of these teams because I feel like every single team in this division kind of stays in the exact same spot that they were last year. They don't necessarily get a lot better. I want to think that the Detroit Lions are going to get better, but until they do, it's hard to say that. I want to say that Big Game Kirk makes the Minnesota Vikings better, but I don't necessarily think they do. And I don't think that the Green Bay Packers losing Devontae Adams ends up being as big of a deal because I just don't think this division gets much better. I like the pieces that the Detroit Lions have brought in. I think they're going to play very close. I like what they're doing with Motor City Dan. Like, I think they're going to get better, but they've got to give him this year to kind of –
and I think they will.
As kind of a clean slate again and just say whatever happens, happens. So – for me, just to get the whole division in at once, the big things to watch here are going to be with the Chicago Bears. It's going to be how good is Justin Fields in the second year? How good is the offense around him? They've got a lot of young guys, especially on the offensive line. So we'll see. The wide receivers aren't my favorite with Darnell Mooney, Velus Jones, and Byron Pringle as just a wide receiver course. We'll see if they get much better. I don't think they're going to be that great. Detroit, on the other, mentioned that they'll go as far as Jared Goff can force them to go to some degree, and with whatever that defense can do. They've got some good young corners. That's about it that I'm really kind of stoked about. We'll see if Jeff Okudah can come back from his Achilles injury and be what he could potentially be. Again, Packers defense looks a lot better than it maybe did last year, and I think maybe the strength of this team with Devontae Adams gone shifts slightly. But if Aaron Rodgers plays Aaron Rodgers football, they'll be okay. Minnesota, you know what? This is kind of another case of their offensive line. It was terrible last year. I don't think it's going to get necessarily. It's been kind of bad the last couple of years. I don't necessarily think it's going to get a lot better. They're going to kind of be what they were last year. They'll win some, they'll lose some. And that's the NFC North.
I mean, that really sums them up perfectly. Because, I mean, nothing's really going to shift much at all.
Yeah, so you know what? Let's just go straight to records on that. For me, Patrick, I got the Chicago Bears at 6-11 and 2-4.
I have them 3-13
and
1-4.
Ooh, 1-5. Cool.
Let me go back really quick. So I think
you're missing a game there somewhere.
I am missing a game. Let me see what game I'm missing here. If it'll pull it up very quickly, which right now it's not. Okay, what game am I missing? Oh, I see. Well, let's pick that really quick. If it'll. So I have them another loss.
So 3-14.
So it'll be 3-14, 1-5.
Okay. That's what I was thinking you meant. All right, for me, Detroit, Patrick, I have it 4-13 and 0-6. But again, I think they'll be kind of like the Jaguars, kind of like some of the other teams we talked about. They'll be better than their record shows.
I have them 7-10.
Oh yes, let's go.
I want 1-5 in the division.
I want them to be that good. Other than the fact that Jared Goff is their quarterback, I want them to be better. For some reason, I have a soft spot for Detroit.
Yeah.
For me, Patrick, I have it 14-3, 6-0 in division.
I have them 10-7, 4-2 on the division.
Okay. And the Vikings, for me, Patrick, I have it 7.
Wait.
Ooh.
I thought you said Vikings. Packers, I have 13-4, 6-0 in the division.
That sounds better. Okay, so for me, the Vikings are 7-10, 4-2. What do you got?
10-7,
10-2, and 4-2. Okay, so yeah, I think that for me, that I think makes them fall in the same order that they finished last year. For you, I think that flips the Bears and the Lions, but the top is still the top.
Yeah, top to top.
Yeah, so let's go, Patrick, now to the NFC South. We're getting close there. Start with the Atlanta Falcons, Patrick. And we can kind of do the same thing here. We can talk about the whole division kind of at once. But with the Falcons, how long until we see Desmond Ridder as a starting quarterback? Or does Marcus Mariota make it the whole season?
That's a great question. think they're going to give Marcus a pretty long leash. And they might give him to the bye week. I mean, they have a really late bye. It's week 14. I mean, they might give until then. Because, leading up to the bye, week 10, they have Carolina, Chicago, Washington, and Pittsburgh. Pretty easy. So, once you get to that 4-game stretch, either Marcus is going to play well enough to get the job the rest of the way, or it's going to lead out to where, all right, if you didn't clinch it by that point, you're not going to. Let Ritter play these last 4 games, and let's see what we got. So it might be the bye.
Well, I think for me, we may have talked about it with the draft. I think Desmond Ritter and Marcus Mariota might be the 2 most similar quarterbacks on a roster that you could possibly have. I think, to me, there's not much of a drop-off or a step up either way you go. I like Marcus Mariota. I think he's fine. I think he's kind of been, not to bring up his name, but people talk about somebody like Colin Kaepernick not being in the NFL at all and being better than a lot of guys. I think Marcus Mariota is a guy who just, kind of got the raw end of the stick at Tennessee and should be a starter somewhere. I think he's a fine quarterback. He's not going to win you necessarily a ton of games, but he's a pretty good quarterback. And I think Desmond Ritter is going to kind of end up being about the same thing. I don't necessarily think there's obviously a lack of weapons on the offensive side of the ball. Once you get past Cordell Patterson, once you get past Kyle Pitts and maybe Drake London, we'll see if he ends up being what they drafted him to be.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what this offense can do. Defense still has a lot of holes, especially on their defensive line. So I think we might see a little bit of improvement, but this is not a super great football team. You move over to Carolina, Patrick. This is a team that I think, man, I feel bad for him, but it helps that Sam Darnold went ahead and got hurt, because I think it makes them not have a question there at all about who's going to be your starter. And it's, for me, at least to start the season, we'll see how long it lasts. It's for sure Baker. Because didn't Donnie Corral get hurt too?
He's out for the year.
Yeah, he's out for the year. Sam Darnold's out for a while. So it makes it very cut and dry. Baker's your quarterback. You've got DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Terrace Marshall, Rashard Higgins, and Christian McCaffrey. That's a pretty decent set of weapons for him to work with. The defense is going to be, a little bit of a question. Maybe they obviously lost Hassan Reddick. So you hope that maybe they can figure that out a little bit. I don't know. This is kind of one of those teams that's a bit of a question mark.
It's definitely a big one. And, I think Baker's an upgraded quarterback.
I do too. All these people who are like, oh, well, the Carolina Panthers have a horrible quarterback situation. I think they actually kind of lucked into the best option they could have had.
Yeah, I do too. Whatever it was, Baker, is, on the block, or Cleveland signs Deshaun Watson. The first landing spot in my mind was Baker to Cleveland or Baker to Carolina, because they clearly just didn't have an answer there at the quarterback spot. And one of their biggest holes is now filled. And I think, in a lot of ways, for a bit, this Carolina and Cleveland group are pretty similar. Carolina has one of the best running backs in football when healthy. They have a decent offensive line. It's not great. Cleveland's was better, but they've got decent weapons as far as receivers. They've got a young but up-and-coming defense. In a lot of ways, it's the very similar team. And I think Baker, when healthy, was successful in Cleveland. So you put him here with this team, and what's going to happen? You're going to see that he's going to be successful in Carolina as well.
Yeah, I think Cleveland's kind of going to wish they hadn't got themselves into this whole mess. Because look, at the end of the day, is Deshaun Watson a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield? Probably, but he also hasn't played in 2 years, really, and so you're kind of getting a bit of an unknown with Watson, and it's a little bit boomer bust. And then obviously he's out for most of the first year. Like, you could have Baker and a healthy Baker, and you could have been fine, and you could have built on what you've had. I think Carolina's actually in a lot better situation than they were. They immediately, like you said, upgraded. And it's just going to be a matter of, can they put it all together, and how does the schedule work out? So I think they're going to be okay, though. New Orleans Saints, Patrick, I think are kind of in a similar position in the sense that, they're kind of – I think they're an okay team. It'll largely depend on what does Jameis Winston do. Coming back from an injury, do you get famous Jameis who's going to go 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions in a game, or are you going to get a Jameis Winston who, maybe is kind of, I don't want to say calm down, but kind of calm down that sense of maybe you get a 3 touchdown, 1 interception sort of game, and that's more of what we get to know from him. And all signs kind of pointed to that when he was playing last year. So maybe you can get that. There's still some questions maybe of what they're going to do, or what gets done with the offense or with the wide receiver core. Michael Thomas coming back, does that help or hurt? Again, another guy who hasn't really played in 2 years. You would think it immediately helps, but if he's lost a step or two, that could be a big problem. Chris Olave helps. Jarvis Landry is a great pass catcher, and so you'll like that being an option for just a good, solid option for Jameis Winston. I think this team in Carolina are going to be very similar, though.
Oh, without a doubt. I don't really think New Orleans is improved, but I don't really think they've taken a step back either. So it's literally how good can James be?
Yeah. Last up, Patrick, in this division, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And, man, look, you would think this team should at some point fall off, because at some point in time, Tom Brady's going to be in a wheelchair because he's just that old. But, man, this team somehow got better again last year or this offseason. And they win the Super Bowl. They don't win a Super Bowl, then they get better. And they probably should. I think you look at what they've done on the offensive line, bringing in Shaq Mason. You obviously have Tristan Wirfs. Like that's a good right side. You've got Tom Brady. You've got a ton of weapons on offense. At the wide receiver position, especially. I really like this team. I think they're easily the best team in this division.
Oh, well, that's no question. That's no question at all. I mean, in everything that they have on defense, which is essentially what they've always had, bring in Akeem Hicks from Chicago, draft Joe Chiron, everything that you have as far as linebackers, as far as defensive backs. You bring back Leonard Fournette. You've got Rashad White, Giovanni Bernard as far as pass catching running back. You lose Gronk, but you bring in vets like Kyle Rudolph. You still got Cameron Brate. You draft Cade Otton. So, I mean, it's essentially just pick up where you left off, and hopefully Chris Godwin gets healthy really quick. And it's one of the reasons why you sign Julio Jones, but easily the best team in the division. Easily.
All right, let's get records then. Atlanta Falcons, I've got at 5-12 and 1-5.
I've got 3-14, 1-5.
Ooh, 3-14, 1-5. Not a good year for them. Carolina Panthers, for me, I've got it 7-10 and 3-3.
Exact same. 7-10, 3-3.
Okay. For me, New Orleans Saints also 7-10, 3-3.
I have 8-9, 3-3.
Okay, so very similar there. And then Tampa Bay for me is 14-3 and 5-1.
I have 13-4, but 5-1.
Okay. All right, Patrick, let's move over to the last division, my division, the AFC West, which is always one of the tough divisions in the league. Let's start with the Arizona Cardinals, Patrick. The big hubbub this offseason was the study hall contract thing that then eventually got removed once everybody found out about it for Kyler Murray. Look, this team is kind of, I don't want to say the exact same, but they're kind of the exact same. Except for the fact that you obviously lose DeAndre Hopkins for the first 6 games of the season. That makes it a little bit tougher of a start. But once he comes back, especially, I think this team will be fine.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons why they brought in Hollywood Brown
Yeah.
from Baltimore. We know how impactful Hopkins is, especially to this offense. So what do they do when they realize they're going to be without him for 6 games and not due to injury? They brought in one of Kyler's besties and his former Sooner teammate to help bridge that gap, which I'm sure Rondell Moore is going to have a bigger impact for those 6 games. James Conner is going to be just as impactful. He doesn't have someone working behind him really to take touchdowns away. Even though he's not going to score 18 touchdowns again this year. The real thing is Arizona always starts off hot, but then towards the middle or end of the year cool off. Well, that's when they're going to, on paper, be the best on offense. It's because they can have Hollywood Brown and they can have Hopkins and they can tool around with Rondell Moore. They also have Zach Ertz. Once they usually start the tail off, that's when they're going to be at their strongest because they're going to have additional depth. Once the suspension is over, the only thing that worries me is the defense.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've done anything really to help this defense, especially with Chandler Jones now gone. J.J. Watt, how often can he stay on the field?
Big question.
To me, all of their question marks lie on defense. The good thing is I don't know how good the rest of this division is going to be.
Well, I think to answer that question, the first question is I think the Rams are still going to be the Rams. And that's I think they're the favorite for me. Obviously, Aaron Donald still exists, so that kind of makes them the favorite. They were obviously better with Matt Stafford as a quarterback than they were with Jared Goff. You look at what they did, what they brought in with Odell Beckham Jr. Is he still there?
No, he is a free agent.
That's right.
Because no one knows when he can actually be back and ready to play.
That's right. Allen Robinson, that's who they brought in. That's what I'm thinking of. I think they'll be fine. I mean, Sean McVay's offense doesn't necessarily rely on it. They still have Cooper Kupp. They still have, like I said, Matt Stafford. Defense is still going to be fine. And this division is down as a whole. So I think they're going to kind of roll through the regular season. And we'll have to see if they gel, if they mesh in time for the playoffs, what they do with the wide receiver position outside of Allen Robinson and Cooper Kupp. Maybe Van Jefferson finally starts getting a few more catches, who we both like as one of the best route runners. So that's something to keep an eye on, but this is still a very good football team.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the only thing to keep an eye on is pass rush with Von Miller gone.
Yeah, and maybe depth. I think depth could be an issue in the defensive backfield, especially. So there's some places to keep an eye on. San Francisco 49ers, Patrick, kind of shockingly re-signed Jimmy Garoppolo. You wonder if that's going to be a sign and trade sort of thing. I know he signed on to be the backup. We'll see. Trey Lance is going to be who they run with. And so I think you're going to see a lot of up and down. Defense is pretty darn good and should be fine. Kyle Shanahan is a very good offensive coach. They're going to have about 6 running backs that you see people try and frantically drop and pick up on fantasy football because similar to Bill Belichick, it's kind of like which running back is going to be the running back this week. And Deebo Samuel still exists. So this will be, I think, a very up and down team, but it's a solid football team.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see Trey Lance coming from, a couple packages here and there to full-on starter. This is your team, which we expected, considering the draft capital they handed over in order to get him. That was the plan all along, but it's a question of how ready is he for this starting role? So it's going to be interesting to see. The defense, like you said, is going to keep them in games. But how good is Trey Lance going to be? So I don't know. I don't know how sold I am on him yet. I think my overall record is going to dictate that.
Yeah. All right, Patrick. We saved the best for last, and by the best I mean the worst. Because this is the worst quarterback room in the league, I think. I know people want to be obviously Seattle Seahawks, getting rid of Russell Wilson. And we can debate another day if Russell Wilson had lost a step, if Russell Wilson, we've talked a lot about him this offseason. Either way, if you're the Seattle Seahawks, your offense is comprised of DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, right? Like going into this offseason, that's who your offense. Once you traded Russell Wilson, that's your offense. Well, you're replacing a quarterback who is the best quarterback suited for those two guys. Russell Wilson's the best quarterback in the league over the last 5 years on throws over 20 yards. Who are the best two wide receivers probably in the league for downfield throws? Two of the best, maybe not the best, but two of the best, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. And so you get rid of the quarterback who does that. And look, I can understand the reasons why. Get rid of Russell Wilson before so that you can get stuff back. But what'd you get back? You got Drew Lock back. Drew Lock's awful.
Yeah.
I've seen enough of Geno Smith for 2 lifetimes. I don't want my daughter to have to watch Geno Smith play quarterback at all. And that's not – you know what? No, I don't mind being a little bit mean to Geno Smith because he got a DUI this offseason. And so – whatever. Like, he's making bad decisions off the field. He's not a good quarterback on the field. There's just nothing sexy about watching him play football. At least, look, at least with Russell Wilson, you had the sexy deep ball every once in a while. There's nothing sexy about this offense right now. The hope maybe is that they get a little bit better, or that maybe they get a little more solid at running back, because maybe Kenneth Walker can stay healthier than Rashad Penny and Chris Carson. But I mean, it's a running back, so that's a crapshoot. Man, I'm not very high. I actually think, annoyingly, I think this team is okay. I think if Russell Wilson is on this team, this is a playoff-worthy team. Without Russell Wilson, this is not a good football team at all. And while there are pieces on the defense that I really, really like, Darrell Taylor has gotten a lot better. Obviously, you lose Bobby Wagner, who goes to the Rams that we don't talk about. But I like Brooks in the middle. I think he's an okay replacement. He's obviously not the Hall of Famer that Bobby Wagner is, but maybe he can work into that. But this is just not a good football team. And when you're looking at the team and your best player, your best 2 players on the offensive side of the football are going to be essentially taken out of the game every single week because you don't have a quarterback who can get them the football, like, you're not going to be good. And you're going to be relying on a defense that is not there to keep you in low-scoring games, so that maybe a quarterback like Geno Smith can put up enough points, so that maybe Drew Lock can come in and put in a couple of points, and you can have a chance. But, man, I don't see it.
Well, I'm going to save you some time because neither do I.
Well, let's just go straight to the records then and be done with the thing. Arizona, Patrick, I've got it 12-5 and 2-4.
I've got 14-3, 5-1.
Ooh, okay. I with you. I agree. I think they're going to get better down the stretch when they get DeAndre Hopkins back healthy. I have the Rams going 14-3 and 6-0.
I have 13-4, 5-1.
Okay, San Francisco for me, Patrick, exactly average as you can be with a 17-game schedule. 9-8, 2-4.
I have them 7-10, finishing 2-4.
Okay, now I'm interested. I'm going to let you get this one first. What do you have the Seahawks doing?
I wish I could say something good. I have them finishing 2-15, 0-6.
Patrick, I wish I could say the same thing, but I usually pick the Seahawks to go undefeated because I never pick against them, but I don't think they're going to be good. I've got them losing, going 2-15, finishing 0-6. And with that, you hear my daughter crying. That's our picks. Go back to the beginning. Get all of the picks that you can. Get all of those things, or get all the socials that you can, and get on those. We will see you guys next week. We'll actually get into a normal schedule. We'll make picks on college and pro, but we'll see you then.
Sounds good. See you.